Yo, what's up guys? And today I'll be bringing part 1 of at least 2 or 3 of my MLB 13 to show wish list. And the reason I will be showing it this early is because just in case, just in the off chance, the very slim chance that Sony does see this video or whatever, maybe they can actually take some of these ideas and implement them into the game. And so anyway, I have a pretty long list. This should be between a 15 and 20 minute video. So if you don't have time to watch the entire thing, save it to your watch later thing, the watch later playlist, or just, I don't know, or just watch it now. But anyway, I have 3 main topics to cover right now. Just stuff in general, home run derby, and then road to the show. And so let's get right into it. I already wasted an entire minute. So anyway, just stuff in general, just some in general enhancements like lighting and graphics, maybe a couple more minor league stadiums, just stuff in general. And then something that kind of bothers me is the rain in Marlins Park. Like 3 out of 5 times that I play there, for some reason, even though it has a roof, I guess the show doesn't realize or doesn't acknowledge that it has a roof, and so it ends up raining, and that just kind of bothers me. And something that I really want to see is a rating system and not just a red bar. I would much prefer to see that Evan Longoria is rated like a 93 overall versus just like the red bar right now. It would just kind of help me as far as like improvements go in road to the show for your road to the show player, or even like a franchise mode. I want to see numerically how much my players grow versus just on that red bar system, and making different teams do better sometimes. And by this I mean, if you play a franchise or you play a road to the show, if you get to the year like 2030, which I've done with a franchise before, like where I simulated seasons, the Yankees, the Rangers, the Tigers, the Phillies are always so good. And teams like the Orioles and Twins and other teams that aren't so good, like the Mets, they never seem to be a surprise team. And so I think it would be really cool if they could just do some surprise teams sometimes. I've seen it a couple times, but it seems really rare and not as frequent as it is in real life. And then weather is something I had on my list last year. Rain doesn't really look like rain, and it just kind of looks like fog. And you know, I would actually really like to see like actual rain coming down, maybe some puddles forming, some like muddy patches on the field, and even sometimes if the Twins make the playoffs, make it snow. I think that would actually be pretty funny to see on like a very cold October day, if it's like sleeting or snowing. That'd be something that's pretty funny. And then new announcers, please. Matt Vasgersian, Dave Campbell, Rex Hudler, Eric Harros. You guys were great for the 6 years that you did it, but I think it's time to hand the torch over to somebody else. Maybe somebody like Joe Buck, and I know most people don't actually like Joe Buck, but he is actually the voice of baseball. Or maybe like a network announcer like either Michael Kay from the Yankees, maybe the boys over from Nesson, the Red Sox, maybe even the Mets announcers, maybe Hawk Harrelson, or even Vince Scully. Those would be pretty cool. And then field weathering, and by this I mean over the course of a game, batters boxes and the fair lines and stuff like that, they actually get worn out and like a little bit, you know, they disappear over time. And I've actually seen that in the game, but maybe even just do it a little bit more. Like the third base line in the 7th inning maybe is a little bit more visible than the first base line, because a lot more people have run down the first base line than the third base line. And then also home plate, I've noticed that it doesn't really get dirty over the course of a game, but I know like when I'm watching baseball or even playing baseball, I notice that home plate gets really dirty over time. And so I would kind of want to see that, just kind of as a little bit of realism. And then making a creative stadium. This feature was available in MVP Baseball 2005, which is arguably the best baseball video game ever by EA. And it's a feature that I really think they could do a lot with, because this past year they came up with Diamond Dynasty, and the customization for Diamond Dynasty was absolutely endless. You could create your home uniform, your away uniform, your hats, your pants, your shoes, your socks, your jackets, and they had a lot of options for you. And if they could do that much customization for Create a Stadium, it could easily be one of the best modes in any sports video game, in my opinion. For like a franchise mode or something like that, I think that would be really a lot of fun. And then more realistic pitching motions and batting stances. I like CJ Wilson's. I really like Johnny Cueto's. Sabathia's isn't bad, but other pitchers' pitching motions are just not great. Johan Santana's doesn't look realistic. Clayton Kershaw's is alright. But if they could take like 15 or 20 star pitchers and batters and bring them into a studio and make them throw several pitches with their pitching motion and do it from several camera angles and put sensors on their bodies, I think that would be really cool if they could then do that and then put those exact pitching motions into the game. I mean, that would be really cool if you could have like the exact true to life motion or batting stances for some people. And then scoreboard / partnering up. And by this, I mean, you know how NBA Live and NCAA 13 have the ESPN scoreboard and the ESPN ticker? Well, if the show could partner up with, I don't know, let's say for example Fox or TBS, then they could use that ticker, that scoreboard, and maybe even the announcers from that network. I think that'd be pretty cool to see. Because, you know, to be honest, half the reason I like NCAA is because it looks so realistic as far as presentation goes. And if you've been subbed to me for a long time, you know that I am a huge fan of presentation. And then, let's see. I have it all on a basically written on my phone on a sticky note. Crowd emotion, especially during the playoffs. I feel like there's not enough crowd emotion, and I think that it would be pretty cool if like the crowd got really loud during a big situation, because I feel like whether it's like the first batter of the game or like ninth inning, 2 outs, tying run on third base, the crowd is just kind of monotone, and so I think that it would be, you know, just a little bit more realistic if they made like the crowd fluctuate with noise louder, maybe even some booing. Like if A-Rod gets a double at Fenway Park, the crowd could boo really loudly. I don't know if they do it right now because I haven't paid very close attention to that, but if it's not in the game, I think that is definitely something that they should add. And let's see, celebrities in the crowd. I think it'd be pretty funny. I was at a Yankees game a couple weeks ago. It was against, let's see, who was it against? It was against the Blue Jays. And it was the game that only lasted 7 innings because it got rained out. It got called because of bad weather. But Nick Mangold was in the crowd that day. And that's actually when I got the idea. I was like, oh yeah, because in the playoffs or in big games like that one, celebrities are in the crowd sometimes. And so I think it'd be pretty cool if it was like the NLCS, Phillies versus Reds, if they showed like, and Charlie Sheen is in the crowd today, or just something like that, you know, it would just be just kind of a comical thing, but pretty funny, and, you know, maybe even a little bit realistic at the same time. And then, let's see, the fielding animations I noticed this year are not great. If I'm playing shortstop and the ball comes to me, I gather it and I throw to first in one smooth motion. But in this game, if I make the play, throw to first base just doesn't look fantastic sometimes. Sometimes it does. Some of the fielding animations are perfect, nothing against them. But sometimes they look a little bit choppy, and so if they could just fix those, that'd be great. And then, same with the base running. Only if you're like out at first, not even if you get an infield single, only if you're out at first does your batter run through the bag. And then if you get a base hit, the way your batter rounds first base, it just does not look great. And so I definitely think they need to just change and just basically update the base running animations. And then something that I thought of the other day, a playoffs mode. I think it'd be pretty cool if, like, in the beginning of the year, or like the beginning of the playoffs of that year, if there was a playoffs mode, you could like simulate the playoffs with those teams, and then, you know, simulate to a champion. I think that'd be pretty cool. And then just playoffs mode in general, just because sometimes I find it fun just to like play in the playoffs and just kind of see what would happen if the Mets made the playoffs instead of the Phillies or the Braves or something like that. And then also, I can pretty much guarantee they'll have it, but I don't know. The 2 wild cards, obviously the 2 wild card thing got implemented this past year in the real MLB, but it wasn't in MLB The Show for some reason, and so they should definitely add the 2nd wild card spot. I'm pretty sure they're gonna have it, but I'm not positive about that. And then ejections, definitely if my batter gets plunked, I should have the option to like bark back at the pitcher or charge the mound or something like that. It was an MVP Baseball 2005, and it was something pretty fun to do. And then if there's a bad call, I kind of want to see my manager come out of the dugout to argue with the umpire and get tossed, because I know very, very rarely managers do come out of the dugout to talk to umpires, but they never get ejected. And so I think it'd be, you know, just kind of fun, kind of realistic to see some ejections sometimes. And then definitely, by far, this is the runaway for the in general enhancement. The online for MLB The Show is pretty choppy, and especially with the baseball video game, because there's like 0.3 of a second to react to a pitch, there is no room for lag. And on the online portion of the game, because online is basically the future and pretty much present of gaming, if there is lag, that just sets it up for a pretty bad time.